Right, good evening, everybody. I've got a fun one for you this evening. I've just had a conversation with Grahame Gould. I don't know exactly how he pronounces his words. He did a live stream the other day, and he made a comment when he was live streaming that atheists choose what they believe. So I made a comment on it that I don't choose what I believe. That got us to have this conversation tonight, which doesn't take long to go pear-shaped, goes south very, very quickly. Is without a shadow of a doubt, this guy has got anger management problems. He can't. If you disagree with him or he can't get his point across, he just loses his temper straight away. So this is what we're going to see in this. It doesn't take long. I think the whole thing lasts about 20 minutes, something like that. Anyway, I'll let you watch the conversation I had literally half an hour ago with Grahame, and you can see how it goes pear-shaped very quick. Hello, you will not. You will. You'll stay there and you'll listen. How's it going, Jill? Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I'll add him on now. Do have a little thing on belief, wasn't it? That's how it. What was it? Yeah, it was a stream that you was doing, and you mentioned something about belief.
Well, I said that atheists choose not to believe, and you said you didn't choose.
Yes, actually, belief isn't a choice. That's right. Yeah, I said
you don't choose not to believe. So I'd like to investigate that. I would say that every belief and non-belief that people have is a choice. Now, right. I suspect that you will claim that you don't see the evidence, so you don't believe because the evidence isn't there. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I've actually got myself a little thing here and read it too, so you can see. I've tried to write down exactly what my position is when it comes to belief. Right. So to me, belief is the acceptance that a claim is true, and acceptance is a result of being convinced. Now, you can be convinced for good reasons, or you can be convinced for bad reasons. But I'm not actually convinced that you can be convinced simply by an exercise of will. So you can't will yourself to believe something. For example, if I was to tell you that I'll pay you £1,000 if you sincerely believe that I have a fired breathing dragon living in my shed next door, you can't do it. You can say you believe it. You can even want to believe it because you'd like to have the money, but you can't, in fact, will yourself to believe it. Why? Because there's no evidence for that claim, and there's lots of evidence against it. And why would you want to choose your beliefs? Now, I don't have a choice in what I believe. I can choose to look at the evidence, but I can't choose what I find when I look at that evidence. And it's that evidence that enforces my belief to believe in one thing or not to believe in another thing. So that's basically where I stand on belief. And when I say that you can't choose your belief, yeah, that's basically my stance and why I don't think any belief, or I certainly don't think I hold a belief that I have chosen to believe. Now, I could have biases. I accept that I might be biased to one, but I always try to look, no matter what it is, at the opposite evidence as well. Flat earthers are a good example. They will absolutely ignore the evidence that is presented to them because they have a bias. They want to believe that this is true, and they will not look at the evidence. They'll always try and find a way of not believing that evidence or coming up with excuses why that evidence is false. But if you're being true to yourself, yeah, you can't choose to believe something. You've got to look at the evidence and you become convinced that something is either true or false. It doesn't mean what you believe is actually true. It could be wrong.
Exactly. So, Paul, I never said what you've just said. So you are misunderstanding what I mean by choosing to believe. You think that means to will to believe something, even though you know there's no evidence. And I never said anything of the sort. You've injected all of that into what I said, and what I said is that we choose our beliefs. Hang on. You talked for a while. Let me respond. I said we choose our beliefs. Now, you've told me how you choose your beliefs. You choose your beliefs based on evidence, right? And if you don't see enough evidence, then you choose not to believe
No, I
the
disagree
thing
with that.
because the evidence isn't there. Because that's how you choose to believe. You
Yeah, but
choose to
that
believe
isn't the
based
choice.
on
The evidence isn't
what
in there.
you could.
I'm just saying, if
Okay,
the
I'll
evidence
just
isn't
let you
there-
talk. I'll just let you talk then.
No, I thought we were having a conversation.
Well, I let you talk, Paul. You didn't let me have a conversation while you were talking. I waited for you to finish because you had this long stream of things that you wanted to say. Now I'm trying to comment on all of the things that you said and you're interrupting me. So which one are we doing?
Go on. Yeah, I'll let you go. Yeah, go on.
Right. So you said that you choose to believe. Now, you don't like to use that terminology because choose to believe for you appears to mean you somehow inject into choose to believe against the evidence. And I never said anything of the sort. You said that you choose to believe based on the evidence. Those aren't your words, but I'm telling you what I mean by choose to believe. People have all sorts of reasons for why they choose to believe. And you even agreed that people can believe because they believe that the evidence is there, even though it isn't. But you're taking, I don't understand the position that you're taking because it's still a choice that you're making to believe. You're just talking about how the person chooses to believe, how they make their choices about how they believe. And I don't understand how that contradicts anything that I said.
Because you said that atheists choose not to believe in the God, and that isn't the case. I don't choose.
Yeah, because you're reinterpreting that. You're reinterpreting that to mean choose against the evidence. And I didn't say that. You're choosing to believe that there is no God because you don't believe that the evidence is there.
No, but it's not a conscious choice not to believe. Now, if the Christian God is true, do you not think that I'd want that to be true? I would like that to be true. I mean, brilliant. All I've got to do is believe in God, believe in Jesus Christ, and everlasting life. I mean, of course, I'd like that to be true.
Paul, every
I can't
time
force
you
myself to believe it.
Paul, every time you start talking in response to what I say, you inject all of these other terms like forced to believe. You just injected two other terms that I can't remember now. I'm not saying that you're forced to believe. I'm not saying whether you want to believe. I didn't say anything of that sort. I said it's a choice to believe. And your choice to believe, according to you, is based on what you see of the evidence. That's your choice. I never said anything different than that.
Well,
and you're injecting all of these other ideas into the words that I used.
Well, I'm not meaning to. I'm just trying to explain that it's not a choice. You become convinced that something is true, and once the evidence is presented to you, then I've got no choice. It's not like a choice to believe it. And that's what I said at the end. Whereas I can choose to look for evidence, but I can't choose what I find. So whatever I find, I can't argue against. So then it doesn't.
No, Paul, you're still not hearing me. That is the choice you've made. That's the choice that you've made to decide how to choose what to believe. And you admitted that there are people that make other choices about how they believe.
Yeah, we can have all our biases.
Exactly. And that's all I'm talking about why people choose to believe what they believe. I'm not injecting all of the other things that you mentioned about forcing people to believe against their will or choosing to believe something because you want to. Or I didn't mention any of those things when I said that atheists make the choice to believe there is no God. I didn't say how or why. You're presenting your how and why, but I didn't make any comment on that. It's still a choice. You've provided your choice.
Okay, so how do I
choose?
Choice
that every atheist makes.
How do I choose not to believe?
How do you choose not to believe?
You're saying I choose not to believe in a God. How do I choose not to hold that belief when I would actually like that belief to be true?
You've just told us, Paul, you choose not to believe because you don't see that there's the evidence.
Because I haven't been convinced.
Exactly.
Which is
I'm not
a choice to be
disagreeing.
convinced.
Paul, you're trying to treat it as though I'm disagreeing with any of those things. I haven't disagreed with a single one of the things. That's exactly your position. I don't disagree.
So the statement that atheists choose not to believe isn't a correct statement, then, is it?
By your definition of it, but by my definition of it, it is a correct statement. And I've told you my definition, and you're not disagreeing with my definition. You're changing what that phrase means and saying, oh, it's not true then. But that's not what I mean by it.
Well, I don't understand what you mean then.
Well, let me explain it again. Let me explain it again. I mean exactly what you're saying. That is how you choose. You choose to look at the evidence, and you look at the evidence and go, I don't see any evidence for God, so I don't believe God exists. That's exactly what I mean by you choose not to believe. For you, that is how your choice process has occurred.
No, because I could be choosing to believe. I may want this to be true, and then I look at the evidence, and the evidence doesn't convince me that this is true. So there again, that is not a choice to believe or not.
Paul, please listen to me. I'm not saying that's how you did it. I'm saying that the choice process that you made is exactly how you made it. That is the choice that you made. Exactly how you made it is your choice process. I'm not saying that you want to believe it and you believing against the evidence and the evidence isn't there, but I'm still going to believe. I never said anything of the sort. Your choice is exactly how you just described your choice. And that's all I'm talking about. Everybody makes their choices differently. Most people would want to claim that they do it based on the evidence, but all sorts of people say that they do it based on the evidence and come to different conclusions. And the choices that they make in investigating the evidence and deciding whether it is evidence or not, and how they look at the evidence, is part of the choice process that causes them to come to a conclusion about what they believe to be true. Do you believe that there is no God?
No.
And is that a choice that you've made?
No.
Why? Why are you saying that's not a choice that you've made? Has someone forced you to believe that there is no God?
No, it's due to the evidence that I've been convinced.
The choices that you've made. The choices that you've made in looking at the evidence and what you consider to be evidence.
Yeah, so I've had the choice to look at the evidence and I've had the choice to investigate. And at the end of doing that, I haven't been convinced that a God exists. So therefore,
and that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything different than that. That is your choice process. And that's how you've come to the conclusion to choose not to believe. Because you don't believe that the evidence is there.
It's not necessarily to do with God, though. I mean, belief is to do with anything. It doesn't have to be on a God.
I was just using that as an example. It's the choice about anything. I completely agree with you that we make choices about everything that we believe. And your choice process, according to you, is always based on evidence. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I believe that that's at least what you believe, and I have no comment contrary to that at this stage. Right? I do believe that you agreed that there are people that claim to believe the evidence, but the evidence isn't actually there. They just believe that the evidence is there. Correct?
Or the choose not to, like flat earthers, they choose not to actually look at the evidence, or they choose not to look. Yes. That's one thing. You can choose to investigate something, and if you do decide to investigate something, you can't choose what you find, and it's what you find that is going to convince you one way or the other. And
not everybody. See, now you're projecting onto everybody how you believe that you operate. There are people that will believe contrary to the evidence because they want to believe differently. It's called cognitive bias. It's called cognitive dissonance. That there are people that will believe contrary to the evidence because they have other reasons. They have emotional reasons. They have social reasons. They have social attachments. So not everybody is purely evidence-based or even thinks that they are. Because this is the other thing that we have to deal with, is that we have biases in what we even believe about what we believe we believe. And so we can be deluded about what our process actually is as human beings. And here I'm not making a claim that in this conversation, I'm not making a claim about your position at all. All I'm trying to say is this claim that you don't choose not to believe, I'm disputing that claim. And I think you're misunderstanding what the claim is.
Yeah, because the way it's worded, it sounds like it's a personal choice not to believe, or it's a personal choice to believe, and that's what I don't follow that at all.
But that's because you're
We all have
injecting
processes
things.
to get to a position. There might be certain processes we do, and we choose what that process is. We do that, but the conclusion part of it, to me, that is not a choice. You become convinced of one thing or another. So when you say that I choose or atheists choose not to believe, they're not choosing not to believe. They just haven't come to that conclusion that it's true. So they just do not believe.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep repeating, you're misunderstanding me, because every time you try and explain what you think that means, I go, well, you're injecting things into it that aren't in the phrase. I didn't say anything about the process. You're assuming the process. You're assuming that that phrase means that you found no evidence and you're still forcing yourself not to believe. And I never said anything of this.
Yeah, but when you use the word choose, whether it's to do with belief or anything, if somebody chooses something, they've made a decision to do one thing or another. And when it comes to the beliefs that I hold, me personally, the beliefs that I hold, what they are, they're not a choice to either do that one or the other one. I've become convinced or not convinced of any particular position. And what that is not the choice. Yes or no is not the choice. That's the conclusion I've come to.
But convinced means to be completely certain about something is the primary definition according to Google. The secondary
definitions of words. What we all know how we talk.
Oh no, Paul. If you don't care about definitions of words,
you don't need to pick apart the name. You don't need to pick apart the word when somebody
Paul.
becomes convinced. You know what I mean in the context and what I'm using. You know what I mean when I say I'm convinced.
No, I don't. No, I don't. That's why I'm trying to figure out what your definition of convinced is. I need definitions. Otherwise, you just use convinced to mean whatever you want it to mean. And I'm sitting here going, what the fuck is he talking about? Do you care about me understanding you, or does it not matter? All that matters to you is that you believe a particular way, and I have to agree with you.
No, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with what I'm.
Well, that's why I'm trying to understand. It's not making sense to me.
Right, go on then. Look at the word definition of convinced.
Well, the first definition is completely certain about something. The second definition given by Google is firm in one's belief with regard to a particular cause or issue. There's nothing about how you come to be convinced. But you're operating as it's like you think that you're a machine.
No.
And that the only choice you make is whether to look at the evidence or not.
Yes, that is the evidence.
You've admitted that there are people that come to a conclusion even though the evidence is against it.
Yeah, people can have biases, yes. I agree that people can have biases. But if they refuse to look at the evidence, then their choice to believe something isn't necessary. I just don't get the bit, but I understand what you're saying now. We choose whether to look at the evidence or not. But I don't choose not to believe in a God. It isn't my choice not to believe. I would like it to be true, so I would actually like to believe that there is a God.
You're still redefining the phrase to mean something different than what I meant, and you're refusing to admit that I mean something different by it. So I don't see how this conversation can continue, because you keep redefining what I say and disagreeing with it because you have a different definition of it.
No, what you said is atheists choose.
I'm done with. Yeah, and you're redefining that. I'm done with this. We're finished.
How mad was that? Let me just close that thing down. How mad was that? Talk about overreacting or what? How that all came about, thankfully, I managed to get him recorded because I'm suspecting he's going to take that down. He's got an anger problem, that guy. Absolutely 100% got an anger problem. How somebody can get so upset so easily is absolutely beyond me. How this all came about is the other day he was doing a stream and he basically made a statement that atheists choose not to believe in a God. That's it. That's what he said. Atheists choose not to believe in a God. So all I did was put in the comments, I don't choose my beliefs. So then he basically wanted to do this. So we had this little, palaver that we've just gone through there to discuss on the beliefs. Now, if somebody says to you, you have chosen something, so I can, this little mouse here, you can either choose this one, this little mouse, or you can choose the pen. It's up to you. Which one do you want to choose? That's a choice. But when it comes to a belief, whatever belief you've got, it certainly shouldn't be. I'm not. Okay. There might be some people that have got the ability to convince themselves that something is true when they're actually not. But they actually somehow, I don't know how that could even work, that somebody could choose. But that's what it's all about. Is the statement he made. His statement was, atheists choose not to believe in a God. As if he can say I'm redefining it any way he wants, but the fact that he made that statement, when he makes that statement, you know exactly what he means by the statement. He's changing what he means by it now, without a shadow of a doubt. Because if I say you've chosen to believe something, it means that you've made the choice to believe this. You don't. There's a process you go through, or there should be a process you go through to believe something. So whether it comes to be a God or anything, the evidence becomes overwhelming, again, for one thing to another one, to you. But you don't choose how your brain looks at that evidence and comes to the conclusion. So the conclusion part, do you or don't you believe something, you've got no choice over. I've got no choice over that. Yes, I've got the choice to look at the evidence. Well, I mean, how could you believe something without looking at the evidence? I'm assuming that, wrongly or rightly, that's how everybody comes to a conclusion, or it should be how everybody comes to a conclusion. Yes, like I stated before, you can believe things because of bad evidence. You can have biases and decide, like these people that are into like 5Gs, how to get everybody and all this lot, and they look at all the YouTube videos that has one particular thing, so that's all the information that they're getting, and they're not looking at the evidence against it. Yes, that's a choice not to look at the evidence against it. But if they're only looking at the evidence that's giving them that 5G is dangerous to your health, then that is what they're going to believe. But the choice of actually believing that is not something you've actually, or the conclusion, sorry, that you believe that is not a choice. The conclusion is not the choice. That's all I was trying to explain to him. But then when I explained how I come to my beliefs, he was sort of like saying, well, I totally agree with that. So then, Graham, why use the statement, atheists choose not to believe? You might not mean it in that way, but you certainly know that everybody else that is listening to you saying that is taking it that way. That I have and other atheists have made a conscious decision not to believe that a God exists. And that absolutely is not the case. That's all I'm trying to say. And I think you need anger management. Without a shadow of a doubt, you need anger management. Because if you don't get so upset on just that, trying to have a conversation like that, I don't know how you get through life. Absolutely don't know how you get through life. Definitely you need anger management. So luckily, I managed to get this recorded before he takes it down. I mean, he might not take it down, but I thought he's going to take this down. But yeah, there's definitely a problem there. It's a waste of time trying to have a conversation when they get so upset. Oh, somebody gets like, what the fuck? Take some tablets or something, mate, without a shadow of a doubt. Anyway, I've pre-recorded this. Luckily, well, could have gone live, but he didn't have the little thing on his StreamYard for me to actually do it live on mine. But luckily enough, I've managed to record it. So I don't know what you think. I understand what he means now by, it's not a very good way of wording it though, is it? I understand what he's saying. It's still vague. Yes, we choose to look at the evidence, but the conclusion part, the actual belief bit, we didn't choose that bit. And I certainly didn't choose not to believe in a God. Anyway, I'll end this here. Catch you all later. Ta-da.